Hurricane Ian is impacting the South Carolina coast from Modesto Beach all the way up to Myrtle Beach and points in between. Good afternoon, I'm Mike Naso with this noontime update on this Friday on Hurricane Ian, still wreaking havoc for the United States coastline, almost ashore here in the area between Myrtle Beach and Charleston. It's looking like it's going to come ashore very near McClellanville, although that is yet to be determined. Here's the visible satellite of the entire Atlantic. And there he is, looking very extra tropical, although not that bad. It does still have that hurricane shape wrapped up. Look at the way this trophiness extends from the North Atlantic all the way into the hurricane and up and around, and then it drags its tail here back down over Jamaica into the Caribbean. This is a monster storm, and that has been seen obviously along the Florida coast and now into South Carolina. Here's the latest advisory as of 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Ian was at 32.4 north, 79.0 west, and it had winds of 85 miles per hour, so it's a solid Category 1 hurricane. Still a hurricane, though, and still very much a threat. Moving north at 14. Last night it was moving northeast, so it's rounding that little trophiness to its west, and it's going to kind of loop around. So it did one of these snake tracks into Florida, then northeast, then north, kind of snaking around like that. And that should dissipate sometime on Saturday over areas of North Carolina and Virginia, but not before bringing these winds ashore. Obviously, we have a hurricane warning, Savannah River all the way up to Cape Fear, having to deal with those hurricane conditions as those winds move on shore. Here's the radar out of Charleston from Mark Niesenbaum's radar website. What a great website. We appreciate all the work he does. And there's the eye. It started to look a little better organized. Now it's kind of look a little ragged, but it's a Category 1, so it's not going to have the radar appearance that it did a few days ago. But obviously pushing storm surge and energy into areas there further north. Myrtle Beach, Murrells Inlet, you guys are going to be in for it, to say nothing of where those hurricane winds come on shore further south. A lot of moisture as well, pushing all the way up into Florence, Sumter, and areas of Columbia. Look at this satellite imagery. What a beautiful system, although it is starting to get that wispy look, and that's usually an indication that it's moving into cooler air and further north, and it's not quite as tropical. But as of right now, still a solid Category 1 hurricane, and that cloud shield extending all the way into Ohio and Kentucky and the Great Lakes, and that's only going to continue as the center of the storm moves into North Carolina and Virginia. I wanted to note that meteorologist Brad Panovich from Charlotte showing that storm surge there in Myrtle Beach starting to get into the major flood area. We had that with Hurricane Isaias back in 2020 during the pandemic. They had a high storm surge, and that was the third highest on record. I'm assuming the highest on record was Hurricane Hugo in '89, and they also probably got a big one from Hazel back in '54. I'm getting old, it's hard to keep track, but that storm surge is the main threat, all the way from Little River Inlet down to the Isle of Palms, 4 to 7 feet, and then down to Savannah River, 2 to 4 feet. And you saw what the power of water did down in Florida. It could cause a lot of problems here in South Carolina. Also, from Cape Fear to Duck, 2 to 4 feet. That includes Pamlico Sound and Neuse River, and then a little bit less up in Albemarle Sound as the hurricane moves on shore. Here's the inundation map, and I wanted to show you, this is an area here where we could definitely see high water rises, and this is near Murrells Inlet there, and areas of Surfside Beach, and then further up towards Myrtle Beach. You guys could have high water rises, even with the Category 1 hurricane, and so everybody needs to stay away from the beach today, hunker down, and deal with this thing so we could finally get rid of Ian once and for all. And obviously, I mean, it goes without saying, this name will never be used again for a hurricane when we reuse this name list in 2028. The rainfall could be a big problem there, and that is why we always have the threat of flooding. Roanoke, Raleigh, Charlotte, Charleston, even over towards Dare County, you guys are going to get into at least a moderate flood risk as that rainfall moves on in, and we're going to watch that very carefully. This is Corey Hartman from Twitter. He's a good guy. He does work there, the owner of Severe Studios. They have great webcams and whatnot set up, showing some of the devastation. There was a man who was pulled out of the rubble by his fellow Americans there in Fort Myers Beach, and he's okay. We also had just devastation in Fort Myers. They really took the brunt of it as it moved on through. The pictures are going to continue to come out as areas of Fort Myers, Sanibel, Cape Coral. Look at Fort Myers before and after. Look at all those boats. We're going to see more and more of this. And then this is updated recently. Litchfield Beach, South Carolina. The pier has collapsed into the ocean from Hurricane, says Hurricane Ike. I'm assuming it's Hurricane Ian. And Litchfield Beach, that ain't far from the Waccamaw River. I fished that river actually back in 2019. I didn't catch anything though, but I digress. But that'll do it for Hurricane Ian here in South Carolina. It's going to be a rough few hours as the storm makes landfall as a Category 1. It does have that wispy look, as I mentioned. It's definitely pulling in air here that is not favorable for tropical development, but that might only help to enhance the wind speed around the storm as it pushes all this energy onshore here. Our friends in South Carolina and even up to the north in North Carolina, you're going to be in for a heck of an afternoon and evening as you have to deal with the wrath of Ian. I'm Mike Naso with continuing coverage of Hurricane Ian. Stay tuned to IPR 365 on the YouTube page, and we'll be back with more next time.